Smith Riley. This is 23-year-old Jaleel Smith Riley, who was convicted for an aggravated and attempted murder of Porshia Brooks and her boyfriend, Aron Martin, during an attempted robbery in Norwind in 2013.
Four defendants serve a term of life without parole. As to count 4.
According to the officials, Smith Riley was one of the 3 men involved in the armed robbery the night of 16th November 2013 in Norwood. Porshia Brooks and Aron Martin were inside a parked car when Smith Riley approached them. He knocked on the car window with a gun in his hand. As per the court documents, he forced Martin out of the car, went through his pockets, and after that shot him in the head. Martin survived the injuries but suffered long-lasting issues due to the gunshot wound to his head. Then, Riley leaned into the car and fired 2 shots at Brooks. She did not make it and died 3 days later. According to the officials, there were 2 more men suspected of being involved in the crime. The first one, Randall Bird, was killed in 2015 in a shooting near Michigan, and the second one, Josiah Fuse, is currently in jail in Michigan. He was charged with murder in the shooting that killed Bird. 2 years later, he got arrested. His sentencing was delayed due to some legal maneuvering. He confessed his crime 2 years after the crime was committed. He was indicted with charges that could have sent him to death row. He pleaded guilty to the murder charges, but later decided to withdraw his plea against the advice of his attorney.
He wants parole. Well, I want my sister. Let's trade.
The families of Porshia and Aron were truly devastated. They requested the judge to give Riley the maximum possible punishment without any possibility of parole.
This is somebody that feels genuine remorse. This is somebody that thinks about this every day, and he knows that he can't go back in time and undo what he did.
During a court hearing, Smith Riley's plea was rejected by the Hamilton County Common Pleas Judge, Charles Kubicki, but he took the death penalty off the table.
4 defendants serve a term of life without parole. As to count 4, for the offense of attempted murder.
The judge imposed a lifetime imprisonment without any possibility of parole. After receiving his sentence, Smith Riley collapsed to the floor of the courtroom. He was devastated.
Go back away. I'm so sorry. This is what I come up with.
He sobbed at the hearing and repeatedly kept on apologizing and admitted that he had made a mistake. His emotional behavior made the lawyers realize that he felt genuine remorse at his actions and was mortified by the murder that he had committed. Jacob Morgan. This is Jacob Morgan, who was charged with arson and murder connected to the death of his toddler brother.
The malice that it would take to set a fire in the bedroom where the child is in the crib sleeping.
This incident took place in 2015 in Rock Hills, South Carolina. Jacob Morgan was a 17-year-old autistic boy who was convicted for killing his 14-month-old half-brother Joshua Hill after setting fire to his house. Mrs. Hill Dover, Morgan's mother, and Mr. Mike Hill, Morgan's stepfather and Joshua's father, had left Morgan to look after Joshua and said that Morgan was asleep when the fire started. According to the investigators, Morgan started the fire on purpose. He was playing with fire as he was fascinated by it. Deputy Solicitor Willie Thompson also said that once the fire started, Morgan came outside. He waited outside the house as it burned down. He did not call for help or go inside to save his younger brother, all of which showed malice and his cruel nature. But Morgan's parents said that he was told to stay away from the fire by the neighbors, who held him back as he tried to get back inside to save his brother. His parents totally supported him and stood by his side throughout. His mother protested his innocence in court and said that he could never hurt his half-brother. His parents argued that Morgan, who also had developmental issues and struggles to read or write as he had autism, was forced into admitting to starting the blaze. According to fire experts, the evidence suggested that there were actually 2 fires. One started in the living room and another on a blanket in the bedroom where Joshua was sleeping. The authorities said that first Morgan said that he accidentally threw a pillow near a heater, but later he said he lit a pillow on fire and threw it in the air, which caused the fire.
Immediately started another fire in the living room. And then to claim it's an accident, that it got out of control, That's an extreme recklessness.
Throughout his trial, Jacob Morgan was very disturbed. He cried as he pleaded guilty to starting the blaze. He openly wept in court as he was jailed for 15 years. Morgan broke down in tears and collapsed on the floor as prosecutors spoke of the fire that killed Joshua. He pleaded guilty to involuntary manslaughter, unlawful conduct towards a child, and third-degree arson. He addressed the court and said that he loved his brother and to kill him would be just like killing a piece of himself. Morgan was sentenced to 15 years in prison. He was jailed for 5 years for the involuntary manslaughter charge and 10 years for the unlawful conduct charge. According to Morgan's lawyer, the case was one of the hardest he had dealt with. He said that Morgan was a very gentle soul and will struggle behind bars. Brandon Spencer. In 2014, Los Angeles County Superior Court, 21-year-old Brandon Spencer was convicted for shooting into a crowd in 2011 and wounding 4 people. He was charged for 4 counts of attempted murder. According to Deputy District Attorney Antonella Nistorescu, in 2011 on a Halloween night, Spencer attended a crowded Halloween party at the University of Southern California campus in Los Angeles. Suddenly, gunshots went off. There was chaos everywhere. Everyone started running in fear and got scattered. Some people were hiding, while others were running around. Spencer also ran away, but he was stopped in a parking lot half a mile away, where he got picked up by the LAPD for questioning.
The minimum period of parole eligibility is 15 years plus 25 years of life in accordance with Penal Code Section 12022.
A few days later, he was charged with 4 counts of attempted murder. 4 people were injured, but none of them died. During the trial, the prosecutors argued that the shooting was a result of a fight between Spencer and a rival gang member, and he himself was a documented, well-known gang member also. It was stated that Spencer identified a member of a Crips-affiliated gang, left and returned with a gun. Spencer shot at 22-year-old Gino Hall and continued firing as Hall ran away and the crowd scattered. Hall and 3 others were badly wounded by the gunshots. Throughout the trial, Spencer maintained his innocence, but the jury did not agree. There were 50 friends and family members packed inside the courtroom as the judge read his final verdict. He was sentenced to 40 years to life imprisonment. Spencer banged his head on the defense table. He broke into tears. He was very upset. He kept on crying and weeping. He said that he was not a bad person and they were mistaking him for being a part of a gang.
I'm not a bad person, but I made mistakes. But I'm not just some gangbanger that she tried to portray me as.
He said that he might have made mistakes, but he was not what they were portraying him to be. He was not part of a gang. Martice Fuller. This is Martice Fuller. He was a teenager convicted of shooting and killing his ex-girlfriend and trying to kill her mother in their home in Kenosha in May 2019.
I don't have any ability to trust that you will never commit these acts. You are a very dangerous and a damaged human being.
He was sentenced to lifetime imprisonment by Kenosha County Judge Mary Kay Wagner in May 2019. According to the prosecutors, Martice got expelled from school and the football team, and he blamed his girlfriend Kaylee and her mother for this. In order to take revenge, he marched to their house. The mother and daughter were upstairs. The family was preparing to go on a camping trip when he sneaked in from the garage. Kaylee was shot 5 times and she died on the spot at the scene. Her mother was also shot, but she survived. After the incident, a cousin brought him to a relative's house where he was arrested the next day. His cousin admitted in court that he was the one who disposed of the gun for Martice. The trial was initially scheduled for February 2020, but delayed after Martice was accused of jury tampering. After the final verdict was announced by the judge, Martice showed the first sign of emotions during the 6-day trial. He was crying and upset, resting his head on the table in front of him. This was the only time in the trial that he looked a little concerned and disturbed about the whole thing.
And so, Your Honor, we're asking you to make Martice eligible for release in 25 to 30 years.
His defense attorney, Carl Johnson, asked the judge to give him the opportunity to be released in 25 to 30 years, but was refused.
Martice writes, Truthfully, I am sorry about the pain you've all suffered through. Despite the hatred that is against me, I still am sorry.
Martice wrote a letter to address the court in which he continued pleading his innocence and blamed the media. The judge punished him for the calculated events, his lack of remorse, the jury tampering, and other charges that he had accrued, all while showing no accountability for his actions while in custody. To conclude, the emotional reactions of these crying convicts upon receiving their life sentences in court serve as a powerful reminder of the consequences of one's actions. While the tears shed by these individuals cannot change the past, they serve as a testament to the importance of making responsible choices and facing the consequences of one's actions. Let us remember that every action has a consequence and that it is never too late to make positive changes in our lives. Thank you for watching, and please don't forget to like and subscribe for more thought-provoking content.